Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly devotionals of Trinity Lutheran Church in West Bend. I'm Pastor David Schoob. Today's devotions, I want to start with a reading from the book of Ephesians, the second chapter. Paul writes there, "For Christ is our peace. In his flesh he has made both groups into one, and has broken down the dividing walls, that is, the hostility between us. He has abolished the law with its commandments and ordinances, so that he might create in himself one new humanity in place of the two, thus making peace, and might reconcile both groups to God in one body through the cross, thus putting to death that hostility through it. So he came and proclaimed peace to you who were far off, and peace to those who were near. For through him both of us have access in one Spirit to God. So then, you are no longer strangers and aliens, but you are citizens with the saints and also members of the household of God, built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, with Christ Jesus himself as the cornerstone. In him, the whole structure is joined together and grows into a holy temple in the Lord, in whom you also are built together spiritually into a dwelling place for God." Just a few days ago, I preached in my sermon on the reality that we people have this tendency to want to divide each other up into groups. Those who are in, those who are out, those who win, those who lose. This seems to be the reality that the world embraces. The understanding that there has to be these divisions in life. Now, I'm not sure why the world's like that. And I'm not sure if we can ever totally change it. But I do know as a person of God that that's not the vision we have within Christ. I read the passages like this one where we hear that Jesus comes so that the divisions that separate might be broken down and we might be drawn together by the love of Christ. Paul here is, of course, talking about the divisions between the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians. And many Jewish Christians believe that Gentile Christians had to adopt their way of life, their rituals, their approaches to worship, if they were to be Christians. And if they didn't, then they were out of the Christian community. On the other hand, there were Gentile Christians who believed that they were better because they no longer were bound by the law. And so now they were free, and their Jewish Christian siblings were still bound. They were the winners, and the Jewish Christians were the losers. But Paul says that's not the point. That's not how God sees it. Christ's action was not so that one group could claim they were in and the other was out, but so that all of them might be drawn together into the love of Christ. Christ died so that there would no longer be such divisions within the people of God. In fact, Paul argues in Romans that the work of Christ was that all the world might be saved. In this month of February, we'll celebrate Valentine's Day. It's a day that lauds the power of love, and we reach out to those who are our beloved. But Jesus is God's Valentine that says that we are all beloved, each and every one of us. And then Jesus calls us to allow that love to bring us together across all the divisions and separations that the world wants to create. The question becomes, can we allow such a thing to happen in us in opposition to the realities of the world around us? There's an amazing little story in one of the Chicken Soup books that spoke deeply to my heart. It went like this. Little Chad was a shy, quiet young boy. One day he came home and told his mother that he'd like to take a Valentine for everyone in his class. Her heart sank. She thought, I wish she wouldn't do that, because she had watched the children when they walked home from school. Her Chad was always behind them. They laughed and hung on to each other and talked to each other, but Chad was never included. Nevertheless, she decided she'd go along with her son, so she purchased the paper and the glue and the crayons. For 3 weeks, night after night, Chad painstakingly made 35 Valentines. Valentine's Day dawned, and Chad was beside himself with excitement. He carefully stacked up his valentines, put them in a bag, and bolted out the door. His mother decided to bake his favorite cookies and serve them nice and warm with cold glass of milk when he came home from school. She just knew he would be disappointed, and maybe that would ease the pain a little. It hurt her to think that he wouldn't get many valentines, maybe none at all. That afternoon, she had the cookies and milk on the table. When she heard the children outside, she looked out the window. Sure enough, there they came, laughing and having the best time, and as always, there was Chad in the back. He walked a little faster than usual. She fully expected him to burst into tears as soon as he got inside. His arms were empty, she noticed. When the door opened, she choked back the tears. "Mom has some milk and cookies for you," she said. But he hardly heard her words. He just marched right on by, his face aglow, and all he could say was, "Not a one. Not a one." Her heart sank, and then he added, "I didn't forget a one. Not a single one." Chad's vision is an image of God's vision. God works so that not a single one will be missed, that none will be excluded and all will be welcomed. In the midst of our pain and exclusion, can we possibly work to include those, even those who exclude us? May the words of the poet Edwin Markham be our prayer for this week. "They drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in." Have a wonderful week, and may we all be drawn together in the love of Christ.